law. That would have been the better route to be able to rehabilitate her.
Yeah, I guess there was an impression that Special Attorney General Stephen Schleicher didn't want to waste everyone's time because they're looking at her. They can tell that she means what she says. Now, let me go to Neama Rahmani. Neama, before the break, I asked you when we were in discussion out of presence of our viewers, what area would you like to discuss that we have not discussed? And you said you'd like to bring up the area of Genevieve Hanson, one of the witnesses that the trial judge is going to allow in. She's not going to be able to say that she could have saved George Floyd's life, but she is going to be allowed in. Tell us about this witness.
Yeah, so we heard a lot of in-limbs the past several days outside the presence of the jury, right? And what folks can testify to. And you're going to get some key evidence from some of the bystanders. You're going to have a firefighter that's going to come and, not express an expert medical opinion, right, with respect to whether George Floyd would have lived. That would be appropriate for an MD or maybe a pathologist. But that's going to come in and testify that there were many moments where Chauvin, and we don't know what's going to be said, but this is what we believe the witness is going to say, that there are many moments where Chauvin could have relieved the pressure, but really chose not to, and really kind of take things maybe one step further than just that percipient lay witness testimony. This is that gray area, right, between lay testimony and expert testimony. And then you're going to have, the MMA fighter that's going to come and say, that this chokehold was really sort of applying pressure and there's a shimmy, and really sort of talk about that as well. So I think that type of testimony from lay witnesses, not just experts, that's going to be very powerful and good evidence for the prosecution.
And Sweet, I guess that goes to the previous prospective juror who was nixed by the defense, when he said, well, this thing could have gone in many different ways, and it didn't. But let me ask you one other thing, and that we did not get to talk about yesterday, and I want to talk to both you and Neama about it quickly. This spark of life concept in Minnesota, where the prosecution can show the picture of George Floyd and other things about his life. I know we've seen in Texas where the photograph of the decedent, because we can't call the decedent victim here in this courtroom, is in front of the jury the whole time. Tell us about that.
The idea is that the state is allowed to humanize the victim, the decedent in this case. The issue is that the defense is then allowed to cross-examine any witnesses that are brought forward to humanize the decedent. So the problem is the state is humanizing the decedent, and the defense can use it as a gateway to dehumanize the decedent. And honestly, I see this happening more and more with victims of police brutality cases, where there's a lot of time spent dehumanizing the person who was killed as a result of excessive force in police cases.
And Neama, we have about 30 seconds left for you here. What would you do if you're the prosecution that won't overstep the bound, that lets the defense go in and bring in, for instance, past arrests?
So you got to be very surgical if you're the prosecution. You have one witness and one picture, and that's all that's allowed in Minnesota. You got to make sure you don't go anywhere near drug use, anywhere near testimony of George Floyd being peaceful. The last thing you want to do is open the door to that type of evidence with your spark of life witness.
Well, I tell you, we see in this case that the attorneys have to be surgical, but there is a dead person here, and there is a police officer whose life is on trial also. I'm Linda Kenny-Bodden. This is the Law and Crime Network. We have been covering the case of Minnesota versus Derek Chauvin. I want to thank both my guests for helping me for the last hours. You've been great. Thank you so very much, and I hope to see you back, both Sue Ann Robinson and Neama Rahmani. And then we will obviously be covering this case also tomorrow when jury selection continues, okay? And through next week, maybe. Stay with us, because as all the jurors have said, this is a case of great, great importance. The Law and Crime Network, we are here for you.